Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I will be synthesizing N N-dibromo-tert-butylamine, a very unique chemical compound made through the direct electrophilic bromination of tert-butylamine. To do this reaction, I need 150 ml of pentane, 10.5 ml of tert-butylamine, and 37.0 grams of N-bromosuccinimide. First, I grab a small plastic funnel, followed by a standard football stir bar. This reaction is not the safest thing in the world, and should only be performed by a trained professional inside a well-ventilated area. To start things off, around half of the pre-measured 150 ml of pentane are added to the 250 ml round-bottom flask. Tert-butylamine is actually quite soluble in pentane, and therefore not a lot of it is needed at the start of the reaction, and we can save a remainder of it to wash down the funnel at the end. Here I'm cooling down the solution of pentane using an ice water bath, and it should be noted that at this scale of this reaction, an ice water bath isn't exactly needed. However, it is good practice to keep it as cold as possible to try to up the yield as much as possible. 10.5 ml of tert-butylamine are then added to the reaction. The tert-butylamine is also allowed to fully dissolve inside of the cold pentane. Here I wash out the flask containing the tert-butylamine with a small amount of the pentane that I kept. Once again, it's very important to make sure that you get as much of the tert-butylamine out of the graduated cylinder as possible. Then, once the tert-butylamine is sufficiently cooled, the 37 grams of N-bromosuccinimide are added to the reaction mixture. The remainder of the N-bromosuccinimide that is left in the funnel is then washed out with the remainder of the pentane into the reaction vessel. The entire reaction vessel then needs to be covered in aluminum foil to prevent any light from getting in, as the resulting product is in fact quite light sensitive. The reaction is then allowed to stir for 24 hours. What's happening here is essentially that the lone pair on tert-butylamine is attacking the bromine of N-bromosuccinimide. This forms, initially, a monobromoamine species as well as one equivalent of succinimide. This monobromoamine then essentially does the same thing, where it attacks the bromine atom of a second equivalent of N-bromosuccinimide, forming the dibromoamine as well as the final equivalent of succinimide. Coming back to our reaction 24 hours later, we can see that the liquid has turned a nice dark red color. This is due to the dibromoamine, and is in fact very indicative that a dibromoamine is being formed. Vacuum filtration is used to separate the product tert-butyldibromoamine from the residual succinimide in the reaction. It is important to wash the residual succinimide with pentane to get any remaining tert-butyldibromoamine off of the surface of the succinimide. The remaining filtrate is then rotovapped down to a little bit over 20 milliliters, at which point it is again washed out of the flask with an additional amount of pentane. The reaction mixture is then put into a -40 freezer overnight to fully precipitate out all of the product. Filtering the product gave us 10.218 grams of these nice orangey red crystals, which corresponds to a 44.3% yield of final product. For characterization, the only real peaks that we see in the NMR are corresponding to the solvent residual peaks for deuterated chloroform as well as the tert-butyl peaks. As expected, the carbon NMR shows two separate peaks that are corresponding to the 3-methyl groups on the tert-butyl, as well as the quaternary carbon that is next to both the 3-methyls and the N-dibromoamine. If you've made it this far in the video, please consider subscribing. It lets me know that you guys like what I'm doing and to continue what I'm doing. My plan for this channel is to make a lot of different compounds that normally wouldn't really see the light of day. So definitely let me know down in the comments if there's anything specific that you'd like to see, and I'm going to finish it off with this video of some up-close crystal footage. Thanks again.